Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Tao Manifesting Tarot, the most honest and clearly defined metaphysical reading on the internet. You know, I said metaphysical. I didn't just strictly say tarot. Yes, tarot is our ultimate destination. That's the point. We want to get to that tarot reading so that we can do what tarot is designed to do. I've done tarot for over 20 years, and in that time, from my point of view, tarot really doesn't predict anything. You might get lucky once in a while, but for the most part, nah, not really. But it took me the 20 years to figure out ah, tarot doesn't predict. It is the science of potential, it is the science of your potential. That's excellent. That's excellent. So I found that I needed to add something to it because you have to, when you talk about potential possibility, there has to be a point of departure. That is to say, you need a base so that you know how to properly use this tarot potential. Okay, so I do something rather unusual. I give you the big picture, I give you the full picture, I connect you in the 3D to the 5D. There's no fantasy, no unicorn stuff, no rainbows, no magic energy from outer space. We're talking about absolute reality. The matrix in your life that is your life is revealed and a whole lot more. Tarot, as designed, is manifesting. It's the human kryptonite when you do it right. Tarot is the science of your potential. As a spiritual being in human form, that's our ultimate destination. Great. You can access it via your tarot frequency using the science of cycles to guide you to your spiritual potential. That's where the astrology and numerology come in. Remember, I said this is a metaphysical reading. It is focused on tarot. Tarot is your ultimate destination, but you need a map of some kind to get you to your ultimate destination that the tarot provides so that you then can manifest. You can really exercise your human kryptonite. So, I've done tarot for 20 years, astrology, numerology for 50. I have come to understand, and it was pretty clear right from the start. Astrology, numerology are the science of cycles. Tarot, the science of your potential. Astrology, numerology, the science of cycles. There's nothing magical. There's nothing satanic. It's like knowing when the next new moon is coming, the next full moon is coming, knowing when Halloween's going to be here, knowing when the holiday season is going to be here, knowing when spring is going to get here. Cycles. That's what this is. And you've heard the expression, I hope, that history repeats, and yet we don't learn from it. I question as to whether we ever will. And the reason it is yes, astrology fits into our history. And so history repeats because the cycles repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, which makes doing astrological readings very difficult sometimes because there's just too many floating parts and pieces. So that's why with this, I work with the basics. I primarily work with the faraway planets, the smaller planets from Mars into the sun. Those are timers, those are adjusters. But from Jupiter all the way through to Pluto, and especially as we get into Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, these are generational things. They hit a whole lot of people in very profound ways, ways that may not be understood for some time down the road. So I have the science of potential, tarot. I use the map provided by numerology and astrology as the science of cycles. So the idea is if we repeat cycles, let me take you back to a specific cycle or cycles. I don't make it complicated. I'm not here to confound, I'm here to clarify. And I show you how they match up. And it's amazing because if you understand a cycle from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, then you're going to understand it today because you'll have something to compare it to. You go, oh, okay, that's what they went through. Well, we're kind of going through this. We had a couple of planets, Pluto, Uranus, at the time of our American Revolution. They're back here again. Look what we have in the country. 1860, we had a Neptune progression. Takes about 165 years. Neptune is back in that same position. Revolutionary War repeated. Civil War repeated. Now, this is how it works. And in fact, give you another one. Pluto and Neptune can get together in exactly the same spot every 500 years. We go back to 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue and came to the New World. Add 500 years to 1492. What do you get? 1992. What do you get? George Bush talking about the New World Order. So the energy repeats, not maybe the details, and that's important for you mapping your tarot potential. Knowing these repetitive patterns teach us about the future. It's not magic, it's simply knowing critical cycles that make up our daily routines because all of us, I don't care if you're 10, 20, 80, we all have our routines. So, in all of this, not only do you know your potential destination, but what it's going to feel like. And the details may be different, but the energetic message is the same. It's a total package, one reading to help you keep your spiritual kryptonite strong and vital. So, we're going to give it to you all. But before we get into the astrology part, just want to remind you that I have an email. You can contact me. Please feel free. Several people are. I appreciate it. Tau-tarot at proton.me. Tau-tarot at proton.me. I decided to get away from the Gmail and Yahoo and all that stuff. I'm trying to step out and step away a little bit, so I went with Proton. They have two choices. If you're a business, it's .com. If it's personal, it's .me. So for people who would go, well, you're saying .me, you must be self-important. No, that's not my choice. That's Proton's choice. But it's your choice to tell me you like it, you don't like it, what do you want to improve? Am I full of shit? Anything you want to say. This is conversation. So here's the email, tau-tarot at proton.me, and I thank you in advance for checking in. I will get back to you ASAP. So let's begin. We begin with the astrologic portion. Back July 4th of this year, right around, I think about a week afterwards, I decided I'm going to take a look at the American history through the eyes of astrology. Because I know what we've been told, and I know that we've been lied to about a history constantly. Constantly. It's to the point where if they tell you one thing, it's not the whole picture, it's not the story, and it may be out and out bullshit. So I decided let's use the astrology. At least we'll figure out the energies. And in so doing, I've found out that right from the start, right from the get-go, 1492, when Columbus, he actually didn't land on continental America. He landed somewhere in the Virgin Islands and was a mean, low-life bastard to the people who lived on those islands, but that's a different story for a different day. Nevertheless, 1492, Queen Isabella, King Ferdinand of Spain got money, borrowed money from the European Jewish bankers so that he could come to the New World and bring back riches, which is always what it's about, bring back riches to Spain. Okay. From that point forward, and I'll put it in quotes because banking in 1492 is not the same as banking in 1992 or 2022. It's just not the same. But they were the money handlers, the ones that Jesus got pissed off at in the Bible. We understand that story a whole lot better today, don't we? Yeah. So the deal is in 1492, the bankers kind of had a line on the new world, and they liked what they saw. They liked what the potential was. Lots of money, lots of money, lots of money, lots of wealth, 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 wealth. And so they hung on. Again, banking not the same in 1492 as it is today, but they did have a hold. And early 1600s or so, the King of England said he had to go to war because they do that periodically. For no reason, just they got to go to war. They make up shit and they go to war. That's fun. Well, he didn't have any money. So he put the word out to the European, primarily Jewish bankers and said, hey, I need money for war. Can you help me? They came in, Rothschilds et al. And they said, hey, Kingy, we'll do it for you. Now, we're going to charge you interest, of course, but we're going to make as part of the deal that we can set up our own bank. We're going to call it the Bank of England. It's nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with England. It's just a name that sounds good, and people will be willing to do business with us. Because in this time, 1600s, 1700s, England was a powerhouse on the planet. So, okay, good. They wanted the name. He said, sure, just give me the money. You can do whatever you want. Well, at that point, they then had entree to the American colonies. Lots of potential for wealth there. And so from 1492, slowly working their way in, they have tried to buy and own America. They set up Wall Street in 1790s. They started up something called the First Bank of the United States, which was supposed to be like the Bank of England. They wanted that official name, First Bank of the United States. They got a 20-year lease. At the end of the 20-year lease, around 1811, 1812, they went, well, we want another 20-year lease. Politicians said, we don't trust you. Which is why the War of 1812 happened, because the Rothschilds wanted to teach American colonists a lesson. When the bankers want what the bankers want, you do what the bankers want. Well, of course, they lost that war. Nevertheless, they were given another 20-year lease. And as the second 20-year lease to the Bank of the United States ended, Andrew Jackson said, okay, I've seen enough. You're not going to get any more. It's done. I don't want you in my country. Well, them is fighting words, and they tried to assassinate him, but they failed. About 20 years later, Lincoln deals with those same bankers. In fact, he said at one point, okay, we got the South and problems with it. We have slavery, but it's fading. My real enemy are the bankers. They killed him. They killed William McKinley. Finally, we start to get to 1910, 1911, 1912. The people who want this Bank of the United States decide we're going to use a different tactic and we're going to get damn serious. Problem. In their group of rich people, they had about 4, 5, 6 people who said, no, we don't want this national bank crap. We don't need it. So what happened was J.P. Morgan, very influential in this group, gave them tickets to the Titanic, and then they sunk the Titanic. Once they killed off the opposition, 1913, we had the Federal Reserve. We also got the income tax because you got to have money coming in to fed the Fed. And while we're at it, let's get women to working because that's more tax money from women. And, we'll put the icing on the cake. How about World War I? That'll make us rich. Really did, because it was 2 brothers who controlled the financing of World War I. One brother worked for the United States. The other brother worked for Germany. Sounds like a conflict of interest? No, it sounds like a family affair. So that's where we were. 1913, America was defeated by the bankers, and that's what we're suffering through today. Well, during that time, there was another battle going on. The American worker was fighting for fairness. That was very difficult, very perplexing, because we had the Industrial Revolution. And that changed things, because what it did was give the rich even more power. The Industrial Revolution marked a major turning point in history, comparable, by the way, only to the adoption of agriculture. Because the Industrial Revolution gave the rich tremendous power. So from about 1760 to about 1840, corporations leaned and leaned hard, along with the bankers. Along with the bankers. Britain was the world's leading commercial nation. It controlled the global trade empire, had all kinds of political power, military power, hegemony, all throughout the world. And the Rothschilds ran the government. That's why you're seeing today still the United States, Britain, and Israel are connected, because they were connected from the beginning. It was Jewish bankers who controlled the Bank of England and who also set up the Fed. It was a triple play. And what happened was they took advantage. As we moved farther into the Industrial Revolution, the workers said, bullshit. We're not putting up with this. Remember, the beginning of the Industrial Revolution was around 1760. 1768, just a few years later, there was a tailors' strike. You know, tailors, like people who make clothes, in New York. They said, "Now you guys are cheating us." 1794, Shoemakers Union in Philadelphia said, "We're on strike." 1827, the mechanics, people who put all the parts and pieces together for machinery, they said, "We're on strike." By 1866, just after the Civil War, there was the National Labor Union, first time that they tried to do such a thing. A couple years later, 1869, the guys who cut clothing for men's clothes, they went on strike. And by 1886, they formed the American Federation of Labor, the AFL. Auto industry, also because of its work, contributed a lot to the development of unions. The problem with unions was that organized crime got involved. They saw all that money that the unions were putting aside for their union members, and they just could not do it. Their peckers got hard, gotta control. So the people who were working in the unions, on the assembly lines, and other places had two bosses: one, the owner or owners of the company, and two, the mafia. So that was a huge problem. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm very familiar with the union stuff, very familiar with the people who worked in the factories bitching and moaning and complaining about the graft, the corruption, the greed from the mafia. We do have an answer. It's called worker-owned companies. They've been around for, geez, probably 100 years, maybe more. I mean, the workers themselves actually own the company. What that does is make for very good working conditions, because everybody has an equal voice. The person who's the CEO has his or her pay regulated by the owners, the people who work there. They have a very, very good, there's probably 100 worker-owned companies that I'm aware of around the world. They're all successful. They're all productive. The people who work there are happy with their work. You don't hear anything about it because the Jew bankers and Jew business owners don't want you to know, because that'll screw it up for them. But that's a fact, Jack. It has been us versus the money handlers in the temple from the start. Let's go to the meme of the day. George Soros, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is an arrogant bastard. Boy, he would have fit in with the Rothschilds. Bill Gates says digital ID must be accepted by U.S. citizens by 2028. Otherwise, they will risk exclusion from society. This guy's a psychopath. Speaking of, the guy up in the left-hand corner, George Soros, nothing's changed with him. Here we go with the missing link, tying it all together for you. Sad truth is that unless every world leader and their owners are in prison or worse, nothing's going to change. They're not going to give up the power. They're going to fight you for it. They're doing it right now. They're going to get mean, nasty. That's what you got to do. So here's the tarot energy. We've set the tone, we've set the feeling, we've set the mood. Tarot reading for today, Seven of Pentacles. A thoughtful review. Guy looking at his tree, looking at the pentacles, looking at what he's accomplished, and just kind of reviewing. Do I need to adjust my value system? Because that's what pentacles are, a value system. The Knight of Swords brings truthful action. You agree that something needs to be changed in your value system. You decide to make the changes. That's what the Knight of Swords is all about. And finally, we have the Page of Wands. Pages change the storyline. This gives you energy and passion. Imagine you being the owner of your own business with everybody else that works there. Nobody gets a raise. Nobody gets anything unless the majority agree, like 65, 70%. CEO doesn't write him or herself a check. It's the workers, it's the owners who decide. A nice situation. Put you in the driver's seat, which these sociopaths, psychopaths don't want. We're out of time. Thank you very much for your visit. I appreciate it. It's an investment in something that money can't buy, so I don't cheapen it. I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Help me out. Help other podcasters out. Like and subscribe. We're getting a lot of pressure these days as subscriber numbers change mysteriously. Please like and subscribe. Between now and the next time you and I get together to do tarot, peace and blessings.